morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, why space? Space, basically, is inspiration. Inspiration leads to imagination. Imagination leads to ideas, leads to technologies. This picture that you see here is a picture from one of the Apollo missions into the moon. As you know, a whole generation was inspired by the Apollo missions to the moon, by the men achieving the moon. What is next in the future that will shape our society, that will shape the imagination and the creativity of our society, with the willingness to go and conquer other worlds? Space is also technology. You know that we have the International Space Station, which is one of the most complex infrastructures that the human has been able to create. There we have an incredible amount of technology that can have a potential impact on society. And I will talk about it during my presentation today. Space is also science. Probably some of you have heard about the Rosetta mission, the incredible approach of a spacecraft into a comet, and then the landing of a small probe called Philae into this comet. This is an amazing scientific achievement, both from the complexity of making it happen and also from the perspective of the information that we got in this mission about science, about our solar system. But space is much more. Space is actually, day-by-day life. So one of the things that the European Space Agency and other players in the world are focusing a lot right now is Earth observation. Earth observation information through satellite that can give accuracies that goes up to 0.5 meters for commercial satellites. So you can imagine what could be the accuracy that can be achieved with military or other application satellites. This opens a whole world of possibilities for the commerce, for the industry, to create applications that could be used for the benefit of society and to generate, obviously, wealth as well. Another thing is navigation. As you know, we have GPS from almost 20 years ago that was developed by the Americans, but in Europe we are now launching what's called the Galileo. So this is one of the Galileos, I believe 8 and 9, when are prepared to be launched from a Soyuz rocket. This is going to be also a game changer in the fact that we are not going to be depending on third parties in case of Europe, but we will have our own capabilities to have, well, GNSS, that's called, I wouldn't say GPS, it's positioning mechanism. At the same time, we have telecommunications. The agency and other players play a key role to have connectivity all around the world, and there are several projects that are basically focusing on allowing high speed in regions which are completely isolated. So the telecommunication, the SATCOM, that's called satellite communication, is part of all the telecommunication framework that we have. So what's happening in space? We believe there are several trends, and today I'm going to talk about 3 things that I believe are important to share with you guys. First thing is new space, how small companies, or not that small, or initially startups, I would call them, are disrupting the space industry. I'm going to talk about how space technology also can impact in the day-by-day of our society, and I'm going to talk about incubation programs. So how the space agency is supporting entrepreneurs to create projects that can have a meaningful impact on society. So space, for you to know, has been an extremely traditional industry, high technology, but using technology that obviously has to work. So if I'm sending a 500 million spacecraft to space, I want it to work. I don't want a microchip or a processor not to work. So I have to make sure that this technology is working. So I usually rely on technology that has been developed a long time ago, that has been proved in space. But now, what's happening is a completely change of paradigm due to several initiatives. So one of them, it's called Planet Labs, but there are other like them. So Planet Labs is basically, instead of producing big satellites of as I was saying, a couple of 100 millions. We are producing satellites that are in the order of 1 to 10 million, small ones that can work distributed. So instead of launching one, I launch 100 of them. And out of these 100, I can replace them every 1, 2, 3 years. So what it gives me is flexibility to have continuously a picture of the Earth. These guys are doing Earth observation, and that's information that is extremely valuable and that gives a lot more flexibility than we have been usually having. Another thing, it's Blue Origin, and I'm going to talk about SpaceX also, but Blue Origin is the company of Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. He's also excited about space, as a lot of people in the industry, I have to say. So these guys have sent rockets into orbit, low Earth orbit, and returned it to Earth, because one of the most expensive things that we have into the rocket is the first stage of the rocket. So there is this potential approach. If I can reuse the first stage of a rocket, I can scale up and reduce the price of launch, which probably you are aware of, is extremely expensive. Another thing is the project OneWeb. OneWeb is willing to have 900 satellites in low Earth orbit, so it's close to the Earth, not in geostationary or other orbits, that can basically provide these high-speed velocities to all around the world. So you know that we have access to internet in most of the Western countries, but obviously there are a lot of regions in the world that don't have access to the internet. So these guys want to provide, through these 900 small satellites with an extremely low price, the possibility of accessing internet everywhere in the world. The other thing is, through different initiatives that have been successful, we are looking again in really deep space exploration. So deep space exploration means whatever that is farther than the moon. So if we want to go to Mars, and there is now investment from NASA again. And this is a tweet from SpaceX talking about the landing of the rocket that was done, I believe, 2 weeks ago, which is an incredible and extremely complex process. So the European Space Agency is the organization I'm working for. We have more than 50 years of experience. 22 member states are represented, mainly from Europe. We have 8 facilities, 5.2 billion euros budget. I have to explain that this budget is not to pay, obviously, for the human resources, but the agency works as a procurement agency. We are basically funding all the development of satellites, mission, and also R&D. And we have supported producing 80 satellites during these 50 years. This is where I work. This is in the Netherlands. This is really fake picture because actually it's not sunny any time on the year, but obviously they have to attract us some way. So this is the reason why I use this picture as well. So at some point, if you are attracted, trust me, it's going to be rainy. So in my work, I'm working in the technology transfer office. So we don't do technical work. We look at how we can use space technology to have an impact on society. And we want to inspire and facilitate, strengthen the European industry, both the space and the non-space, and we also want to boost the local economy. Which tools are we using? Basically, we have 3 tools and an extra one that it's not under our direct department, but we collaborate a lot. We're managing the ESA patent portfolio. So ESA has patents that we produce and that the space industry can use freely. The broker network is a mechanism of support to the space and the non-space industry to link technology needs and technology profiles or technology descriptions. And the Business Incubation Center is a program of the European Space Agency to support startups willing to use space technology to create their business. This is a case, an example that we work using an ESA patent, so an Omega watch is using a software that was developed by an astronaut. In the Business Incubation Center, we try to support projects like this. So nowadays we have, I think this is not updated, but 13 instead of 11, and it's going to be 16 quite soon. That is supporting around 400, it's supporting more than 100 startups a year and supported 400 in total. So this program has some things interesting, I think. First one, technical support from people in the environment of ESA, and funding of 50K for 2 years of incubation when you use space technology. This is a case of basically a company that was created by a French entrepreneur using software capabilities of monitoring and control that are used in the control rooms of the spacecraft to be applied in the oil and gas. Another case is one of the researchers of the Rosetta mission decided to create a product to basically identify if there are bed bugs in the hotels. Probably you are not aware of it, but it's a big, big problem. If you have to really close a couple of rooms because you have to find, or you found that there are bed bugs, that generates a problem of revenue for the hotel. And nowadays, you have to go to the lab, take the test, and it can take 24 hours. So using the same technology that was used for a specific instrument of Philae, he created this bed detection system. So the broker network, we have 15 brokers all around Europe. We support space and non-space technology, and I'm going to show you some examples. The first one, for example, is the use of the software that is used by the ExoMars. So you know that we have a delay in the communication between the Earth and Mars. Probably you've seen, the ones that seen the Martian know what I'm talking about. So this generates that the robot needs a software that can take decisions themselves. So that same technology has been applied on subaquatic operations on Earth in the oil and gas industry as well. This is the robot. Another one is use of software for the complete control of big infrastructure like the oil and gas. We have these capabilities in space. Another case is the use of a sensor that was developed for the PROVA, which is an Earth observation mission. This sensor has been used for the early identification of cancer. So just for me to finish, there's more to come. The space industry is changing. There are opportunities for startups willing to use technology or to create new ventures in space. This is one of the changes that the Congress of the United States made. Nowadays, if you go to space and take something of a rock, or let's say a comet, or an asteroid, if you take it back to Earth, it's going to be yours. You don't have to give it to the government, while before you had to give it to the government. There's also a lot of initiatives similar to the ones I explained in Earth observation for weather forecasting. And finally, inspiration, the Moon Village. This is one of the ideas that we have in the European Space Agency. Can we have a base in the moon in which people, not all of us, but some of us, can do research, so the same that we have the ISS, but moving to the dark side of the moon. So with that, I'm finishing. Hope you have fun today. And if you have any doubt or you want to talk about how space can impact on the marketing business, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.